Okay, so last time I told y'all about me and my boy Adrien. After catching him messing around down there, without asking me for help, I decided to give him a special game. Something that'd really get his attention. You know, teach him a lesson. Now, let's keep going on this little ride. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Yeah, here. Got more stuff queuing up that'll knock your socks off. A slow smile spread across my face. My eyes getting all sharp and, well, different. Be the final boss, the big enchilada. He wouldn't see it cumin, but I did. I knew how far I'd go, how far I wanted him to follow me down the rabbit hole. My fingers touched my lips, still feeling all tingly. "Let's see if you can handle me, Adrien," I whispered, my voice low and kinda dangerous. "Let's see if you're ready for mama." I stood in my bedroom, the floor creaking under my feet, barely louder than the shower running in the bathroom. My hands were a little shaky as I pulled the thin bathrobe tighter, the damp cloth sticking to my skin from all the steam. This crazy game had led us here. All them notes, the boxes, the pictures I'd picked out special to tease him, to reel him in. And now the door was kind of open. "Enter if you dare," all written in big red letters across it. Like a double dog dare to both of us. My heart pounded in my chest, a mix of nervous and excited that I couldn't shake off. I heard him before I saw him, the squeak of his sneakers. That little pause before he stepped into the room. Adrien, my boy. Holding that toy sword like it could keep him safe from the storm I started. The shower was going strong. This steady sound I'd left on to draw him in, that lavender smell. From my soap drifting out to meet him. I stood by the sink, my wet hair dripping down my shoulders, the robe barely tied, just waiting. "Adrien?" I called out, keeping my voice soft, gentle. Even though it was shaken a little, I wanted him to hear me, to feel me pull in him. He flinched. I knew he did, even through the cracked door, and my heart beat faster. "Can you come in here, honey?" "Mom, are you talking to shower?" His voice came back, shaky and unsure, and I smiled a little to myself. He was right on the edge, just like I planned. "Yeah, but it's okay, baby," I said, keeping my voice calm, smooth, like I practiced in my head. "I need your help with something. Come on in." I leaned back against the sink, the cold feeling good against my skin as the steam swirled around me, warm and thick. There was a pause, a long one, and I could see him in my mind standing there, like he was rooted to the floor, just thinking. He'd always been careful, my thoughtful boy. The one who had to figure out every move in them video games. He was always playing, but this wasn't a game he could win by thinking his way through. Not anymore. I heard the door open a little wider. Felt the air shift as he came into the bathroom. I couldn't breathe for a second. The steam made it hard to see, but I saw him good enough. His tall self, the sword still in his hand, his eyes wide as they saw me. I turned to face him, letting the light hit my wet hair, the shape of my body under the robe. His face got all red, and I felt something ripple through me. He was here. He'd come. "You find the key?" I asked, my voice low, feeling deeper than I could show. I took a step closer, the robe moving with me, the bottom of it touching my legs. He swallowed hard, and I saw his hand grab that old brass key, the one I'd left for him like breadcrumbs in this sick little story. "Yeah, I found it by the front door," he mumbled, his voice kind of rough. His eyes looking at the floor where my hair was dripping. He couldn't look at me, not all the way, and that made me hotter. "Good," I said, close in the space between us, close enough to feel the heat of him in the air. "You've always been good at finding things, ain't ya? Like them games you love to play, huh?" I tilted my head, looking at him, trying to see that look I'd seen in his eyes lately, the one that told me he wasn't just my little boy anymore, but something else, something I could reach. He looked up then, and we looked each other dead in the eye. There it was, that deepness, the look he hid. I knew about the nights he spent in his room. Those headphones on, the things he thought I'd never guess, but I did. And standing here, I wondered if he saw it in me too. The wonton, the pull, the messed up game I'd made to get us to right now. Mom, what's going on? His voice broke, shaken, and for just a second I almost turned back. He was scared, confused, but he hadn't. Run? Not yet. I didn't say nothing. Instead, I reached out, touching the edge of that toy sword, running my fingers across it like it was the real deal. "You're my hero, Adrien," I whispered, letting my voice go all soft and sweet. "But every hero needs a final test, right? Are you ready?" The shower was still going, the sound filling the room like a heartbeat we could both feel. His chest was moving fast, his eyes looking at mine, and I knew he was lost, stuck in the web I'd made, not knowing if he should fight or give in. I stood there closer than I'd been in years and knew the truth. Whatever came next, whatever he did, we'd crossed a line we couldn't take back. The world went down to just us, to the heat of him in the steamy bathroom, the shower fading out. My fingers touched the knot of my robe, the wet fabric slipping till it came undone. Fallen to the floor. I stood there, just bare, my breath short, my skin feeling everything. Adrien was saying something, but I couldn't hear him. All I saw were his lips moving, his eyes on me, shocked, and something else burn in there. I closed the space between us fast, my heart beating so hard I thought it'd break. My finger pressed to his lips, shutting him up, the warmth of him making me shiver. My other hand found his, the one he'd put up to protect himself, and I took it away. My fingers touched him. Firm, alive, and I felt him the way his body knew, even though his eyes were scared. "Hush, baby," I whispered, my voice shaken but strong, a command all covered in lovin'. He looked terrified, but I could feel it, the beat under my touch, the wanton that wouldn't let go. He wants this too, I told myself. The thoughts settin'. Something off inside me. My hand wrapped around him, moving slow, feeling him growing in my hand. "Mom," his voice cracked, a broken sound that couldn't make a word. He was lost, stuck in the storm I'd let loose, and I couldn't stop. Not now. I got on my knees on the wet tile, my eyes on him, my lips opened, and I took him, slow at first, my tongue moving soft. The taste was strong, shocking, and I moaned into him. I pushed deeper, breathed in hard, tears in my eyes, when I pulled back. There was something shiny connecting us, and I kissed him again, my mouth not stopping, my hand moving all the time. Shaky, I stood, my body shaken with a want I couldn't put a name to. I took his hand, guiding him to the sink, my back pushing against the cold edge. My legs opened, my skin hot and ready, every part of me alive. I didn't need knots in more. I was already there, atching for him. I reached back, my fingers touching his, telling him to come closer till I felt him touching me. A soft moan slipped out as I pushed back, wanting to be closer, and then he was there, inside me, his hands grabbing my hips as he moved. Every touch sent a wave crashing through me, my voice calling out his name. "Oh, Adrien." The sound echoes from the walls, mixing with the shower. But then a voice, clear and mad, cut through it. "What the hell are you doing?" "That's your son, you freak." I froze. Everything stopped as I turned my head. There she was, standing in the doorway. Me, another me. Her face was twisted with hate, her fists tight. Before I could even think, she was running at me. Her hand hit my face, waking me up. I gasped, snapping my eyes open, my chest hurting as sweat soaked my skin. I was in my bed, the morning light shining through the curtains, the room quiet except for me trying to breathe right. A dream, it was just a dream, but my body didn't know it. I could still feel it, the action, the heat, the wet between my legs. I sat up, my hands shaken as I tried to get a hold of myself. What was that? How could I dream something so sick? About my own son? I shook my head, wanting it to go away, but it stayed, clear as day. I got out of bed, pulling off my wet panties and throwing them in the dirty clothes. I grabbed another pair from the drawer, messing with them. The shower still hummed in my head, an echo of the dream I couldn't shake off. And I wondered, dreaded, what it meant that I'd felt so damn alive in that dream. The bed was right there, but it felt like miles. Every move feeling heavy with what was passin'. My fingers tightened around Adrien's, pulling him gently. My breath catching as his warmth pressed against me. The dress clung to my skin, the fabric, shifting with every step, and I could feel his eyes on me. Dark, searching, filled with something I couldn't name but understood all too well. The air buzzed with it, that unspoken ache that had been building between us, now spilling over into this moment. We reached the edge of the bed, and I turned to face him, my hand still holding his. His chest rose and fell quickly, his lips parted, as if to speak, but no words came. I didn't need them. I could see it all in the way he looked at me. Confusion, guilt, desire, all tangled together in those deep brown eyes I'd known since he was a baby. My baby. My boy. And yet, here he was, a man standing before me, trembling under my touch. "Adrien," I whispered again, my voice softer now, almost a plea. I let go of his hands and brought mine to his face, cupping his cheeks, feeling the faint stubble beneath. My palms. He flinched just slightly, but didn't pull away. "It's okay," I said, repeating the words like a mantra, as much for myself as for him. "We're okay." He swallowed hard, his hands hovering at my waist, fingers brushing the dress's fabric, as if afraid to commit to the touch. "Mom, we shouldn't." His voice was hoarse, strained, but there was no conviction in it, just a shadow of doubt that I could feel slipping away. I leaned in, closing the gap between us, my forehead resting against his, my breath mingling with his. "But I can't stop feeling this, can you?" It was a question, a challenge, a confession, all at once. I pulled back just enough to meet his gaze, searching for the answer I already knew. His eyes flickered. And then his hand settled on my hips, firm this time, pulling me closer. The heat of him seeped through the dress, and I gasped softly, my fingers sliding to the back of his neck. He kissed me again, deeper now, his lips moving with a hunger that matched mine. The room spun, the soft light blurring into a haze as I sank into him, every nerve alight with the thrill of it. We stumbled backward, the edge of the bed catching. My legs and I sat down, pulling him with me. His weight pressed against me, tentative at first, then heavier as he gave in. My hands roamed his shoulders, his back, memorizing the shape of him through his shirt. His breath was hot against my neck as he buried his face there, a shaky sigh escaping him. "Mom," he whispered again, the word breaking in his throat. I tilted his chin up, forcing him to look at me. "Don't," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "Don't think, just be here, with me." I kissed him again, softer this time, pouring everything I couldn't say into it. The years of sacrifice, the loneliness, the love that had twisted into something new, something dangerous. He nodded, a small jerky motion, and his hand slid up my sides, tracing the curves the dress hugged so perfectly. I arched into his touch, a shiver running through me as his fingers brushed the neckline, lingering there. The air was thick, electric, and I felt myself slipping further into this moment, this forbidden space we'd carved out together. But then a sharp creak from the hallway snapped me out of it. My eyes flew open, my body tensing beneath him. Adrien froze too, his breath hitching, as we both turned toward the sound. The door was still cracked open, the dim light from the hall spilling in. And for a heartbeat, I thought I saw a shadow move. "Mom?" His voice was a whisper now, laced with panic. "Did you hear that?" I sat up, my heart racing for a different reason now, my hands gripping his arms. "Stay here," I said, sliding out from under him, my bare feet hitting the floor. The dress swished around my knees as I moved toward the door, every step heavy with dread. I pushed it open wider, peering into the hallway, but it was empty, just the familiar creaks of the house settling. I turned back to Adrien, his face pale in the soft light, his chest still heaving. "It's nothing," I said, forcing a smile, though my pulse hadn't slowed. "Just the house." But as I stood there, the spell broken, a cold wave of reality crept in. What were we doing? What did I let happen? He sat up, running a hand through his hair, his eyes avoiding mine. Maybe we should stop," he said quietly, the guilt creeping back into his voice. I nodded, though every part of me screamed against it. "Maybe," I echoed, my voice hollow. I stepped back toward him, sinking onto the bed beside him, close but not touching. The silence stretched between us, heavy and unspoken, and I wondered if we'd ever find our way back from this, or if I even wanted to. We reached the edge of the bed, and Adrien paused, his hands resting lightly on my hips. His gaze met mine, a storm of longing and uncertainty swirling in his eyes. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice so quiet it barely broke the silence. I nodded, my hands trembling as I cupped his face, drawing him closer for another kiss. "I've never been more certain of anything," I murmured against his lips, my voice soft but resolute. "I need this. I need you." Those words seemed to shatter the last of his hesitation. His fingers slid to the hem of my dress, lifting it slowly, his lips brushing down my neck in a trail that sent sparks racing through me. I shivered, my hands weaving into his hair as he eased the dress up and over my head, letting it fall to the floor without a glance. The cool air brushed my skin, but it couldn't dim the heat blazing inside me. Adrien's eyes traced over me, lingering on every curve, every line, as if he were etching me into his memory. His hands followed, gently outlining my frame, my chest, my waist, my hips, until I was trembling with an ache I couldn't contain. "You're so beautiful," he whispered, his voice thick with wonder. He leaned down, his lips finding my skin, pressing. Soft kisses that sent a jolt through me. I gasped, my back arching as waves of warmth flooded my senses, my fingers clutching the sheets beneath me as I breathed his name. "Adrien, please," I pleaded, my voice fragile with yearning. He didn't hesitate this time. His hands moved to his waistband, swiftly undoing his pants and sliding them down along with his underlayer. He stood before me, strong and ready, and my breath caught at the sight of him, more than I'd ever imagined. I reached out, my hands wrapping around him gently, offering a slow, careful touch. Adrien let out a low sound, his body responding as his hands gripped my thighs, parting them with care. "Mom," he breathed, his voice tight with emotion as he positioned himself closer. I bit my lip, my body humming with anticipation, and nodded, giving him the silent permission he sought. Slowly, carefully, he pressed forward, his eyes locked on mine. I gasped, my nails digging into his shoulders as he filled the space between us. The connection overwhelming after so long without it. Adrien's breath hitched, his hands steadying my hips as he began to move, each motion deliberate, like he was savoring every second. "Oh, Adrien," I murmured, my legs wrapping around him as he deepened his rhythm, touching a place that made light stance behind my eyes. My hands slid to his back, leaving faint marks as his pace quickened, pulling me closer to the brink. "Mom, I can't. His words broke into a ragged sound as he pressed himself fully into me, his release washing over him just as mine surged. Through me, a rush that left me trembling and breathless. We held each other, our breaths tangling as we rode out the moment, lost in the closeness. For a long while the room was silent, except for our uneven breathing. My heart still raced, my mind spinning with a torrent of feelings as I looked up at him, my fingers brushing the damp hair from his forehead. "Adrien," whispered, my voice tender and heavy with everything unsaid. "There's something I need to tell." I love you with all my heart. Please don't be cold to me anymore. From now on, let's always love each other like this, okay?" After hearing this, the boy nodded, and we hugged each other tightly.